Hey, Dennis O'Brien back again on Let's Talk About It for another great show. We bring you a great show every Friday, and this Friday it's no exception. This is our first time with our new town manager, Rob Zarnetske. And Zarnetske. God darn it, I got it right the third time, right, Rob? Zarnetske.
You did.
I got the N in there. Yes, I got the N in there. Anyway, I don't know Rob all that well, but I've had a few brief meetings with him at Town Hall. He's very, very interested in talking to the people in the town and even me. And we did talk for a little while, and I was able to convince him to be on the show this Friday with me and Susan. And he's already done the Wayne Norman show. So, Rob, you've been town manager now for a little bit over a month, right?
Yeah, it was a month yesterday.
A month yesterday. That was your month anniversary. And you're okay. So you went through this hiring process that started, I think, back in November. I don't know.
Well, it was earlier than that. I think they posted that job in August.
Okay, it was. I wasn't involved in it. I'm not on the town council anymore. So they posted the job in August. Okay, so you've been involved in the process since then, preparing for interviews and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You're well prepared.
It gave me plenty of time to learn an awful lot about the current state of affairs.
Yeah, I'll bet they were probably impressed by your knowledge of the charter and the history of Windham and all the. Although you did go to school here, right?
I did. I was a ECSU. I'm an ECSU grad. I'm a UConn grad. I spent about 5 or 6 years as a Windham resident in my when I was 18 through my early 20s.
Very good. Well, I have another Eastern grad here in the studio. I'm the UConn grad, but I have an Eastern grad here with me. She just walked in wearing a beautiful red blazer. Susan Johnson, our state representative.
Hey, welcome to the show, and so glad you're here, fellow ECSU grad and person who really adores the Willimantic and Windham. So, yeah, so glad you could join us, and congratulations on your appointment as the town manager for us.
Well, thank you.
So you went through an arduous process, or semi-arduous, and you emerged as the people's choice of the town council and whoever else was involved. And so far so good. You definitely. Let's talk a little bit about you said you went to Eastern, you went to UConn. You're also an attorney.
Yeah, University of Oregon graduate, actually. U of O Law School after... So, yeah, my educational history had me bouncing around in the Northeast for a while. Eastern, UConn, went up to Boston and earned another master's degree up there, and then out to Oregon for law school. After law school, I popped down to D.C., and I was... working as a presidential management intern for the Department of Education, and then became the assistant director of the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. I was actually a computer programmer over at the Department of Transportation for a while, and then created what was known and is known still, one of the most popular programs at USDOT, the National Transportation Library. I kid about it. It was the first congressionally mandated online federal library, and because I was involved in sort of the computer programming and internet online services, I joke that I helped Al Gore invent the internet, and there's some truth to that.
That's a good one.
That is a joke. I actually laughed involuntarily. Anyway, so you actually practiced law for a while. That I didn't know until I listened to Wayne's show with you.
Yeah, I practiced mostly in New London County, though I did get up to Windham and Holland County a little bit, but mostly in New London County, Norwich, and New London courthouses. General practice, did a lot of real estate, did a lot of some family law, did a lot of business upstarts, helped a lot of small family businesses get going, did some restaurant labor law and that kind of thing.
So you didn't spend a lot of time going to short calendar in Superior Court?
Not too much.
Good
Not
for you.
Too much.
Good for you. A lot of waiting around.
Yep.
And
I
clients
remember
don't,
the
clients
time
don't
I
like
did
that
spend. Yeah,
because they have to pay
no,
for
it's
it.
not fun.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, we're so lucky here in Wyndham to benefit from the incredible, varied experiences that you've had in dealing with the law and government and all kinds of things. And great to have you here. Susan Johnson is giving me a hand signal. She wants to say something, so I'm going to let her.
So the kind of experience you have is exactly what we need for a town like Wyndham, because we have so many different aspects to our town, whether it's Eastern Connecticut State University or the hospital. We have all different types of housing here, whether it's student housing, Victorian homes, mobile homes, multifamily dwellings, large dwellings, a huge number of different types of housing and zones. We have small businesses, big businesses, and all these things. We have 4 fire departments. We have 2 types of state police and 1 local police. It goes on and on. For a small town of 24,000 people, we have a huge variety of things to take a look at and see how they all can work together. So the kind of experience you have seems to fit perfectly with all the different types of needs that we have and all the different things that are going on. It's a very, very different community, I think, if you take a look at communities all throughout the state and even the country.
Rob Zarnetske, ready for anything. And you will find that here. And you know it, right?
Yeah, I do. And I actually think that it may be cause and effect. And I sometimes tell people that Willimantic is where I learned to be an adult. It's where I learned to be a person. I came out of high school, and the first place I landed was Willimantic, and it's where I really did. I opened my first business in Willimantic. It's where I, first signed a lease for an apartment in Willimantic. It's where I bought a car. It's where I became an adult. And I think that growing up, in that sense, in an eclectic place, sort of instilled in me a love for the eclectic, and my career has absolutely been that. It's been wonderful. I've enjoyed every bit of my work life. But I've worked at every level of government, in every branch of government, and I've had the opportunity to work in the private sector, and I've had the opportunity to work overseas, and it's just been an eclectic experience, and I honestly think that it may be because I learned how to be an adult in Willimantic.
Well, I was with you the other day for a few minutes, and I asked you if you liked Wyndham. You said, I love Wyndham. And did I love that, because I love it too. Susan loves it. Matt Rupar loves it. We all love it here. And people who live here, unless they're very cynical by nature and negative, people love it here. And it's a challenge, but we have a lot of challenges here. And one of the challenges you're facing, as you just came on, hitting the ground running, you picked a great time to start because it's budget season.
Yeah, tough budget season. Coming off of last year's incredibly high tax hikes, we knew coming into this budget season that it was going to be very difficult. And, as we were saying before, the hiring process for this position took a long time, and I did have the opportunity to sort of dive in and get a pretty good handle on much of the town's finances before taking the position. But there's a lot to learn that you can never learn from the outside. And we had 4 weeks to put together a budget. And, I got to tell you, I'm very happy with the effort made by everybody in Town Hall. The department heads were great. The folks that, had to provide information and sort of think about what we were doing in a responsible way stepped up and did what they had to do. And we produced a budget that I think is one of the strongest budgets that the town has seen in a long time. It's a complicated environment. Wyndham have got a very complicated fiscal structure. It's very rare to see a fiscal structure that includes a town meeting, a finance board, a town council, town manager, and a mandatory referendum. That's a lot of hurdles in the budgetary foot race, and figuring out how to take those strides is not has not been easy for me. Running and learning at the same time have been a challenge in this case. But I am happy with where we are on the town side budget. I think that we've produced a very responsible fiscal document, but more importantly, we've moved the town budget process from a straight fiscal numbers orientation toward a program budgeting process where the budget is our commitment to the community on an annual basis. We tell you what we need in terms of dollars because we are also telling you what you're going to get for those dollars and how we're going to measure whether or not we achieved and delivered on what we told you. That shift in budgeting philosophy is, I think, extremely important. Communities that follow responsible program budgeting get what they want because they've called their shots before they go out and they ask for the money. And I think that is the most important change.
That's a huge change, and that is something that having the transparency in the budgeting and where your money goes is something that we have to learn more of at the state level as well. But I did love what you had to say about the procedures here. And if you're going to be working with CCM or providing testimony on the state budgets, I'd love to have you at least put that paragraph in about the budgetary process here in town and the complexity. Because most people don't go through this, as you said, in most of the other, towns, especially a town this size. And if I could have that and pass that around with some of my other ideas and some of my other co-sponsorships for example, there's a bill Senator Looney put forward to do a statewide property tax on properties valued more than $5 million, that would be something that I would include with my remarks about how 40% of the value of the town of Windham goes to the state. So I all those ideas that you have, that would be great for me to steal some of your ideas. I can give you credit for it. And and get that over to the Capitol so they really get who we are even more so, because I've been trying to have them understand, and it's very hard. People only have so much of an attention span for all these types of details, but if I can keep passing it out, it does sink in eventually.
Yeah, I think you point to two other complexities in the finance system here, and that is the two taxing districts.
Yes.
That's also very, very unusual. In fact, I don't know of another municipality I take that back. The two taxing district concept exists. The particular structure of the taxing districts here is very unique.
It is, and that has been very, very difficult to convey to the executive branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, you're right. I mean, you mentioned that, I think, on the Wayne Norman show. You talked about the our financial structure, and it is really complicated, and not just on paper, but in practice, as you're about to find out, even more than you already know. But when you actually go through it, because I worked for 14 years as a town attorney up the road in Mansfield. And, you mentioned our staff, and you're right. We have a wonderful staff, and I know you appreciate them, and I know you mentioned that in the budget document about what a great job the department heads did. Finance department, I'm sure Jim Bolano was involved, lots of department heads, Matt Verdefe. What a great job they did in helping you to put a budget together in a month. In a month coming in, you didn't come in totally cold because you studied up on it before you were hired even, but you were you're relatively cold, and the staff is terrific. I mean, in Mansfield, the staff they have double the staff that we have here, and they have more to spend, and talk about pilot. I mean, they get an awful lot of pilot for Yukon, and it was nice working up there. It was probably the second best job I've ever had. The best job being as a judge, because I like being a judge because I like to be in control, and I like to be in control control of a situation, especially when I think I can do some good. And I just from talking to you for a short time, I understand you have the same type of approach, that you want to do good for the citizens of this town, and you want to take your incredible experience, intelligence, and ability and put it at our disposal. And at the same time, you're going to enjoy the heck out of it. Even though it's not easy, it is definitely something that, something I would like to do if I had the time and the inclination and I was a bit younger. But and I think Susan would too. But I like my job, she likes hers, Matt Rupar likes his. So we're going to leave it to you. and we know you're going to do a great job. But I just wanted to mention the fact that you're right. We do have an excellent staff. But as far as our financial structure goes, I think I mentioned to you earlier that, I did a study of towns and their structures all over the state because I wasn't too keen on the notion of having a board of finance when you have a town council operating as your policymaking body, because the legislature doesn't have a board of finance. I've told people that many times, but everybody says, well, I have 151 members in the House.
They have finance, revenue, and bonding, okay?
That's a committee.
So was the Board of Finance.
You're not supposed to interrupt me. Come on. We made a deal.
Well, we made a deal that we have a conversation here.
We made a deal. I wasn't finished.
Oh.
Okay, but we have, you're right, the two taxing districts, also the Board of Finance. And the Board of Finance has been functioning so well in the last several years. With a great group of members led by Tyler Griffin, our chair, and Kevin Donahue, our vice chair. A lot of great members. Peter Hughes, a lawyer, just went on there, and he's excellent. You're going to love working with Peter Hughes. But anyway, still, I'd like to see government streamlined to some extent, and we could do better in that regard. But that's not on the docket for today. I just wanted to point that out.
I would just point this out, though, and I'll say this because I've said it to everybody in the context of the budget. Anything can work if we're committed to working together.
Yes.
Even complex systems can be made to work very well, very efficiently. And nothing will work if we're not committed to working together. A simple system can still have all of the same problems in terms of interpersonal conflict and inability to get things done as a complex system. And we really can make this system work. The instinct in Wyndham to make sure that there's lots of perspectives brought into the budget process, lots of different points of view reflected in the outcome, is a good instinct. It's fine. But I often point out that there are 5 legislative forms of municipalities in Connecticut, and I've never seen a government that looks like any one of the 5. They're all hybrid. All 169 communities have got some variation on the theme. They've added some local flavor to the statutory form. And we've got that here. We've modified it so you've got, a town meeting plus sort of Board of Finance, a town manager, council form, but it's a mix. And that can work perfectly well. We just have to figure it work well in this context. And one that's come up even during this budget cycle is the budget that gets presented by the manager historically is captioned the town, Board of Education, and capital budget. Well, what was presented last night had that caption on it because that's what has historically been done. But there's nothing from the Board of Education in there other than the revenues we expect to see from the state.
Yep.
It's just a miscaptioning because of tradition. And similarly, I think that what happens in governments is folks get sort of lazy about things a little bit. If you've got a Board of Finance, does the manager really matter that much? Just throw them some numbers and let them do the work, right? That kind of approach is a real problem. And I had to really encourage folks to overcome that perspective during the development of this budget. We spent a lot of time on this budget. In fact, I'm told we spent more time on this budget than anyone remembers ever putting into a budget before.
I think that's wonderful, and as someone who served on the board of selectmen before it was a council, it was one of the things that it was at the time it was simpler. It was simpler times. The grants from the board, the state, for regarding our education cost sharing grant weren't being provided. We didn't have alliance districts. We didn't have all these different things that have to be looked at. And so some of the money that you look at that comes through the state, for example, for the education cost sharing grant, goes to the town. Other parts of the money that go to the Board of Ed go straight to the Board of Ed as alliance districts. So the money splits somewhat. And so all these kinds of things, these changes have made the budgeting process much more complicated than it used to be back when I was on the council. Also, when you I haven't had a chance to look at the budget yet that you have, but when you look at your budget, it's the way it's been modified is much more difficult for people to follow than it was back when I was on the council. And I used to do budgets for legal services, and I have some experience doing that kind of work. And so how these things are presented to the public, going back to what you originally said, having people understand where their money is going and what it's going for, eliminates a lot of the speculation about why things are the way they are and why their property taxes are what they are. So I think that those things are really great observations.
Yeah, one of the things that we have done in this budget document is come up with some graphical representations of the implications of, and this is the complication, right? The implications of the town side of what will ultimately be the budget for the municipality. What was your tax bill last year? What would your tax bill be this coming year if this spending plan is approved? We've put it on a chart so that you can actually just see, if my property is worth $250,000, then I'm falling to the left side of the line here, and my tax bill is going to be affected. It turns out to be something like $175 on that property. But you can just look on the chart and see where your property lies and determine in a rough sense what your tax bill increase would be.
Yes, and that's important. It's important for the people to be able to take a look at that and see what it's going to be, but also what it's going for. And right. I know that we get tax bills from other properties, and they outline exactly what the money's being, the percentage of the money, and where it's going in terms of the operation of the town and the education system. So it's very interesting to see that. And I'm thinking, gee, Connecticut really should do that, and the towns should do that, because but it's hard because on the other hand, we have 169 towns, and to have them produce some of this, where some of the properties that we have in other places that have county governments that produce this kind of information, so to have to reconfigure your computer systems so that everybody understands what's going on is a very difficult process as well, and it's a very expensive process too.
Well, we actually bought the software last year to make it possible to put up a version of the budget documents that would allow you to sort of see those graphics. What percentage is going for public safety? What percentage of your dollar is going to the recreation programs? Unfortunately, the town hasn't been able to get that all implemented, and I couldn't afford the time this past month.
Oh no, I'm just saying.
So, yeah. But we've got the software, and we're planning to do it next year.
That's great. Well, that's really interesting. I had no idea that you had that. Well, we're about ready to go to a break to let our sponsors help us out with the cost of our show, and we will be right back after these messages.
Okay, this is Dennis O'Brien, and we are back on the air with our town manager, Rob Zarnetske. And Rob, so glad to have you on the show. Sorry that you got to Wayne. Wayne Norman got to you first. I mean, Wayne and I have a little thing going about scooping each other on a new guest, and he scooped me. But I always tell him he's got a show on every day, and he makes a lot more money here than I do.
Okay, we volunteer.
We're volunteers, but anyway, they take advantage of our incredible interpersonal skills and use us as volunteers on the radio. And also our ability to track guests, which is a big deal. And that's why I was disappointed that I couldn't get you on before Wayne did. But before I knew it, I heard you on the Wayne Norman Show. Actually, he told me you were going to be on. Anyway, we were talking about the budget, and I did read some of you released you had a meeting last night. You met with the Board of Finance and the board and the town council and revealed the budget. You want to tell us a little bit about the meeting?
Yeah, so under the town charter, the budget has to be presented every year at a joint meeting. The town manager's proposed budget has to be presented to the town council and the finance board at a joint meeting before February 28th. So we got in just under the wire last night on the 27th and presented the budget to the finance board and the town council last night. It was a good meeting. We had pretty good attendance, some folks online, but a good number of folks in the room as well, and an opportunity to really sort of get some decent feedback on what folks are looking to see. Things that has been coming up a lot because the budget that we've proposed on the town side actually would be a tax relief budget if it weren't for the debt service that we're managing right now. And one of the things folks are sort of worried about is, did we overspend in these projects that we've recently done? Did we spend too much on a rec center? Did we spend too much on the downtown parking garage? Did the high school renovation cost us too much? And I think that's not the right perspective on this. The community really needed those centers. They needed those resources. Those assets are here for us. It was necessary for the community to build those assets. And it was a good idea to build those assets when the interest rates were low and when you were getting, thank you, Representative Johnson, 95% reimbursement from the state for a high school renovation.
Thank you.
It was a wise thing to be doing these projects. But we still do have to pay that portion of the bill that is ours, and it does have a impact on our finances. This year, our debt service cost is going to go up by $750,000. We're going to be just over $4.4 million in total debt service. That's a significant number on a budget that's coming in, total budget coming in at $73 million. So it's an expensive thing, but that's what it takes. It's expensive to own a home. It's maintain a community, and it's more expensive to build and make that community what you want it to be. So what this budget presented yesterday, was really all about was making sure that we tightened our belts as much as possible. The proposed tax increase for the Wyndhams in this bill is 1.4, or in this proposed budget is 1.4% over what was last year, again, compared to 27% the previous year, and 2.9% for the Willimantic taxing district. Those are very modest increases. If, again, we didn't have debt service in there, the increases would be actual decreases. We just are sort of stuck between the need to maintain the people in the buildings that we've built and paying for the buildings that we've built. It's not a bad situation. I understand that folks coming off of last year are very unhappy with the idea of any tax increase. We are still waiting to see what the Board of Education delivers for a request. But I got to tell you, this is tight. This budget is, and I don't say that sort of as a plea for approval here. I say it because it's just a fact. This thing was built to be incredibly tight. We have zero capital investment this year. That's a strategic choice that we've made. Our investments in capital, the assets that we've been describing, plus road maintenance, plus park maintenance, plus the maintenance of our equipment, the vehicle fleet that the town has to maintain. All of those investments have been off schedule is how I'd describe it. We haven't had a routine schedule of replacement. We haven't had an asset management plan in place. We haven't been managing our real estate and assets. I've decided that we're not going to spend money this year on capital investments. We're going to take a breath, we're going to take a year off, and we're going to spend the time to plan how to manage all of our assets. We have 143 pieces of real estate around town. We have hundreds of vehicles. We have, between us and the Board of Education, we have lots and lots of equipment. We've got to get everything on a list, and we've got to start thinking about how to manage those assets over time. So it's strategic that we're not going to be buying capital this year, but that's a 0% increase because we're not buying anything there. So really, it's just the people and the debt service that are driving our tax increase this year. And again, it's a really small tax increase, well below the rate of inflation nationally, well below the state cap for this year, because we know that folks don't want to see another increase.
Yeah, I like what you said about about the house and the mortgage, and I that's one of the arguments I made when we did these big projects to the public. That hey, when you buy a house, you mortgage, you borrow, and if you want something like a fully renovated large high school, you're going to have to borrow a little bit of money, or a community center. And the downtown parking garage, which is the nicest looking parking garage I've ever seen. And I'll tell you what, $6 million of the, I think $11 million that went for that, maybe 12, came from the state of Connecticut. The community center was not, Susan did get a grant to start the ball rolling on that, but it wasn't, that was paid for that's going to be paid for mostly through bonding as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that you said, and it's something that I had hoped for when I was on the Board of Selectmen, is take a look at our property management, what our assets are, and figure out how to create a plan to manage them. And a lot of people had suggested that at the time, but there's never been a really good plan to manage all the properties and assets of the town. And I think that would be good. The other part of that might work, and this is once the project is done and you have that figured out, and we're already doing some of it, how can we share with the region with some of the assets that we have and they have, and what is needed to, say, help Mansfield? What can Mansfield do to help us, or can some of these smaller towns work with us and pay us for utilizing some of our resources? So this is and of course the councils of government that we have, I have a bill in on the councils of government, and trying to make sure that they work with the towns, and I'm going to make it I'm working with some of the leaders in those areas to see if we can't share resources and have some oversight with our COGS. So it's something that we can do, and we can move through and see how we can save everybody in our region the funds that they need to do to save money here in Eastern Connecticut.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That duplication is sort of the next frontier here. It's looking for, even within town, one of the things that you see all over the country is a movement toward boards of education and public works departments sort of dividing the work differently. There's no reason why a board of education needs to be plowing its own parking lots if the snow plow for the town is going right by the parking lot at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? You can schedule things so that you don't need to have two snow plows out there.
Yeah, I think Mansfield was doing that years ago.
Yep.
I don't recall which of the two agencies was doing the plowing. I think it was as you suggested, the Department of Public Works of the town of Mansfield. We had an agreement. We had an agreement. We this is all done by agreement.
Yep. And the same thing is how you do it anywhere. It really is, you've got to get with folks. The issue tends to be, around labor agreements and union concerns about preserving work for everybody. But if you're clever about this, you can figure out how to make sure that there is enough work. There is enough work for everybody, and it shouldn't matter to us whether a school department employee is cutting the grass at a park next to a school, or a public works employee is doing it.
Exactly. That's really a great analysis. Really, very, very good. And it's and having us be more and more coordinated. The taxpayers will appreciate that work because they'll see the results in the future. But that's and it will maybe help everybody think about how we can coordinate, whether we're in the Willimantic taxing district or the first taxing district in the villages, and of course in the region. And the other thing is I've often said that the towns next door have no idea what the economy's like, what the resources are in the towns next door, what the government's like. How do they do things? Nobody seems to really know anything except for what they're doing in their town. And it would be good to these sharing opportunities, and sharing and reducing costs as a way for people to really know what's going on next door.
Well, we've been limited to some extent because, as you know, I'm sure, Rob, we did have a COG here in Windham up until a few years ago when the state decided to somehow save by cutting the number of COGs, and one of the COGs that was taken out of the picture was the COG in Windham, and now we're connected to a COG that's located in your old bailiwick there for a while. You've had a lot of bailiwicks of Norwich. And I don't know. I just think that, and there's another COG, of course, up in Danielson that our former former town manager, Jim Rivers, is now heading up. But that's still, pretty far away. And we're not as connected to the, I'm town attorney for two of the towns in the area. Of course, Andover goes to the Hartford COG, and Chaplain.
Mansfield.
Pardon?
So does Mansfield.
So does Mansfield, that's right.
Yeah, and so there's the CCOG and the Northeast COG, where we lost our Central COG, where we all could work together. And I was against that, and I fought Speaker Sharkey on it, but he was all for regionalization. But again, he didn't fully get what happens when you don't understand all the differences in the towns and what happens with the neighboring towns and that sort of thing.
But you also know, Rob, that we are, when Mr. Rivers was their town manager, and actually I had something to do with it because I was town attorney and still am in Chaplin, that we started to provide services to the town of Chaplin, and for tax collection and also for IT. And I know, I'm pretty sure that since Hampton is involved in that too. You would know better than I would right now which towns are involved, but we are providing services to on a smaller level to some of the smaller towns.
Yep, no, that's right, and it is wise. I mean, it helps us because it allows us to capture a little bit of funding from the towns, particularly the revenue office program has been effective for us. It's a way for us to generate a little bit of money to offset the cost of running our programs, but make use of the resources, the human resources we've got. And for the participating communities, it's been great because you don't have to pay for, if you're a small municipality, you don't have to pay for a tax collector full-time position. You can find someone like Willimantic or Windham who is willing to do that work for you and pay a fraction of what it would cost to hire somebody on full-time.
I can tell you that, as you probably know already, your tax collector is excellent.
She's great.
She is doing a great job for the town of Chaplin, and everybody's happy with her as far as I know. And I certainly am. I've had to work with her on some legal issues. Funny thing, I walk into the town hall, and I'm not here to pay taxes. I'm here to talk to the tax collector about an issue we're having in Chaplin. And she's always available. She is so terrific.
She really is awesome. Lisa Madden, she's
Madden.
Great. And if anybody's listening out there in surrounding towns and you're struggling with how to how to do tax collection, give her a call. She's amazing.
I have had a great experience working with her as well. She really understands how to connect with the state. She's been working with the state branch as well as working locally, and she's excellent at understanding how things work, and that's so important for somebody in her position.
Well, I've known some tax collectors in some places that weren't that nice because it's the kind of job that you have to be pretty tough. But Lisa Madden is very nice, and she's very good at what she does. Shout out to Lisa Madden.
All right, Lisa.
All right, Lisa Madden. Anyway, I think you two, Susan and Rob, are talking about some really good ideas about things that we can do in the future to make not only our financial situation but also our quality of life here even better. I think I can't leave the show without talking about one of the projects that we worked on to put together at least in addition to the high school, which is really the jewel in the crown of the 4 projects we did when I was on the town council, and that is the community senior center. That's been a huge success, and just as we knew it would be, bringing people together, bringing generations together. I like the idea of seniors and kids in the same building. People had some trepidations about that, but I think it's worked out great. Whenever I go down there and see the kids, see the seniors, fantastic. I love bringing people together like that. And that place I drove by it yesterday, and the parking lot was filled. And it makes me so happy.
It's a beautiful facility. It really is.
Yep.
Did a great job designing it, and Mayor DeVivo had a big hand in making sure that operation was done well. And I'm very, very proud of that. And that whole Gilson Square area is gorgeous now. Not so long ago, it had the dilapidated theater building, and it had problems. And now it's really functional and a great place with the stage, with the Shabu stage, a place for people to gather. And we have great opportunities for meetings and for concerts and for community activities, and it's just a great spot, and it's a great welcoming place for when people come into town. So I just love the way the Gilson Square looks.
Hey, Rob, I got to ask you this. We're getting down to the last 3 minutes here. Time flies when you're having fun, and we sure are having fun here, right, Susan?
Right, Dennis.
Right, Matt?
Yes.
All right, so I just wanted to talk about next steps now. I know one next step, and that is we're going to have a meeting, I believe, on March 11th with you and the Taxing District Board. And we're going to talk about the Taxing District budget, which, of course, covers police and fire. And that's one next step. What else is happening?
So we've got meetings scheduled for next Tuesday and Thursday. The public is invited to come out and share their perspective on the proposed town side budget next Tuesday and Thursday, and then the Tuesday and Thursday after that. The meetings are at 6 o'clock in the Bellingham, in Town Hall. With the exception of the March 4th meeting, that Tuesday meeting will be after the town council meeting has completed. So it's a tack on to the town council meeting. And that meeting will be later.
Okay, so you don't plan on meeting on March 11th with the town council?
Oh, no, not on March 11th.
Okay, got to leave that open for us,
no, you're
the
good.
Taxing
Good.
District
Yep.
Board.
You're
Okay, don't. So hey, I just did some business on the air there with the town manager, and I think that's a first.
Oh, maybe.
Have I ever done that before? Probably. Okay, with Jim Rivers. Anyway, so what? Okay, so that's going to be a heavy schedule for you, and a great opportunity for the people of the town to learn about, to meet you, get to know you personally and professionally, and also to get into the weeds of the budget.
Yep, and we are going to get into the weeds. There's a lot of weeds to get into. There's a lot of detail, and this budget is a very different budget than the ones that you've seen in prior years. There's a lot more description. There's a lot more explanation, which raises a lot more questions, right? There's a lot more opportunity for engaging with the document. And to be honest with you, with this version of the document, this first attempt at a full program based budget, there's going to be more errors. There's going to be more stuff to find that we want to change in the presentation next year. So much about how you present a budget depends on how people perceive the presentation. Math is a funny thing to translate into English sometimes, and we've attempted to translate math into English as best we could, but we're clearly going to have to adjust it to make sure that we're speaking to the audience, and it's going to be really important for us to hear from people so that we can strengthen our presentation going
Okay,
forward.
Rob, we're almost out of time. One last quick question. How can people access the budget? How can the public access the budget?
They can certainly access it online at the town hall website.
Okay.
And again, it's a proposed budget. We're not there yet.
Oh, we know that.
Well,
okay.
the public may not know it, though. I just can't thank you enough for being on the show, Rob. Having our town manager on the show is great, and it's wonderful to bring this wonderful information to us, so I really appreciate it.
I think it was very timely and a great discussion, Rob, and thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show before you go back on the Wayne Norman Show.
All right.
All right, you
Enjoy
take care.
Thank you very much. Be
I
well.
was just joking.